just a situation, and maybe he saw what he did and he felt bad about it, and he's like, I don't deserve to be here. But I don't know. I don't know. I have no clue. I have no clue whether he's in heaven or hell or whatever. And I don't wish bad or anything on him. You know, I hope God had mercy.
Yeah. Okay, fair enough. I just wanted to at least ask the question of you, just to kind of hear your perspective on it. I want to make sure with everybody that's on the line, just to make sure that I'm not sitting here talking and somebody's thinking what we're saying is crap. Does anybody think that Chris Benoit did not do it? Conspiracies aside, does anybody think that? If you do, chime in now.
See, now
more guilty than OJ.
It's weird. It's weird because when it first all happened, there were so many, conflicting stories of, oh, well, how did he manage to do this over a 3-day span? How did he manage to hang himself like that? How did he, how did he place the Bibles next to his body and all this other stuff? And then there were the stories going around that Kevin Sullivan had did it, and he was getting revenge for Benoit stealing Nancy back in WCW, and all of this other stuff. But I feel like
that was a running joke. He's the running joke all the time. Kevin Sullivan did it.
It really is. And it's one of those things where now, as the decade has passed, and like we've found more concrete stuff, like the fact that his brain was that of an 80-year-old Alzheimer's patient and stuff like that. It's not unbelievable that he did it. As much as we would love to be able to say, oh no, our hero didn't do that, he was totally set up. After a decade, like, honestly, there is without a doubt that Chris Benoit committed those murders.
If you would have tried to plead, there would have been a Netflix documentary about his ass.
Yeah.
He red-handed. Like, he did it. It was his vessel. May not have been the Benoit everybody understood, and going with religion, demonic possession would never be out of bounds for my thinking, but that's just a whole other can of worms for a whole other time, I feel.
I mean, okay, so I'll give you an example. Like Hornswoggle, somebody was doing a shoot interview with Hornswoggle, and he was like, so I don't think he did it because there were just too many holes in the police's case. But just because the police didn't do a great investigation doesn't make it any less true that he did it. That's the thing that bothers me is people are like, well, the cops sucked. Yeah, the cops may have sucked, but it's still pretty obvious what happened,
Yeah.
Absolutely. Like, cops have opened cold cases before because they found new evidence, and they've had something be overturned. So for something like that to happen, it's not it's not out of the ordinary. For somebody to say that the cops sucked at doing their job, well, if you look at all the evidence that was presented, hey, he did it. Like, that's the way I see it.
That's what I was getting ready to say. Like, it's shitty to say, but sometimes if they're doing some kind of investigation and looking, and it's just blunt, like, this is what happened, he did it. That's what it is. They just don't look that much more into it. They're just like, let's not drag this out any more than it needs to be for the family's sake or for the public's sake or to waste time and that. Like, it's cut and dry. We don't need to look more into it. Even though people want more information and to find out there is something else to it, because they don't want to believe that's what happened. Yeah.
Well, I think it's too. Okay. Sorry, I didn't mean to talk over you. I was just going to say, let's be honest. It's just like the Aaron Hernandez case. You got to be a bad motherfucker to kill Chris Benoit and his family because decomposition is what I'm talking about, over the course of a few days, and then hang him. It's just like Aaron Hernandez. So if people really believe that he didn't do it and then somebody hung him, that just seems a little out there to me. I get conspiracy theories and there are some things here, but I don't know. At the end of the day, I don't know how you can't come to this conclusion, even though it hurts. Go ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean to.
Hanging without a fight's not a true hanging. That was a terrible joke, and I apologize. I'll leave the room.
To be honest, the only thing with me, I was doing a little research of interviews and everything else like that, like, Google search on the web, and it's amazing to me, like, how people are still coming up with these ridiculous, like, out of left field conspiracies. I think, still as of this year, like, news shit's being published all the time, whether it be blogs of people, it's incredible. I mean, like, I don't know who made the comment, but, like, 10 years later, he did it. I mean, would I like him to be redeemed somehow, and, like, like, he didn't do it, his name being cleared, he can maybe take a spot in the Hall of Fame? Yeah, of course. And I think most of us would if this was the case that, cold case was open and all of a sudden, holy shit, this is not what it was. But, yeah. I mean, to think that, 10 years later, that people are still coming up with, I don't want to say excuses, but coming up with these conspiracy theories. I mean, these are people that, like, get off on this shit. And of like, possibilities of what could have happened, but, it's incredible that 10 years later that a lot of people, like, I guess you were saying, Travis, it just can't grasp it and don't want to. Like, they're just reaching for something that's just not there.
And, you make a good point, and everybody, I'm sure, well, I don't know how you guys feel about this, but there was a time when it first started that I honestly, and this is fucked up, but I honestly hoped that it was Kevin Sullivan because I didn't want it to be Chris Benoit. And that's wrong and shitty of me. And, technically I still kind of feel that way, and that's wrong and shitty of me still. But, like, at the end of the day, if I'm going to, I would rather it be him than Benoit. I know that's horrible. I know that's probably wrong of me, but that's just the way I thought. I would rather it be this person instead of this person. But at the end of the day, the facts and evidence, and that's what we have to go on, it says Benoit. And, Chavo talked about Benoit and all sorts of different things, and his last conversation, and somebody brought it up, the I love you that was forced or just, that he had to let him know. But, Chavo didn't really notice any changes other than the paranoia, and, people use Eddie's death as, the downward spiral, but Chavo didn't notice any differences in Benoit other than, the paranoia. So I don't know. It's really weird, like, and I don't know. I think at the end of the day, we're still grasping 10 years later, and I don't know too many events in our lifetime that's anything like this. Maybe nothing.
In all honesty, I think John's theory of what happened is probably, like, the most tried and true, because it would explain the small, like, the paranoia, the weird rapidness of things to, like, a quick violent episode, a long prolonged episode, and then finally the last day, the realization of what was actually done. And then, which would explain the ritualism of the Bible. It's almost like a please forgive me kind of thing, pray for me. Like, I don't know, like, putting it in that context while we're talking about it, and, like, that actually does seem like a very viable theory, and especially with all the scar tissue on his brain, all the steroids he has done in his past, all the drugs that he's probably done, alcohol, everything else, it adds up.
Absolutely.
Like, I'm very happy, like, the one good thing that came out of it in this business is people being more wary about injuries and taking care of themselves and taking care of others and being open about being injured and, being open to your loved ones. Like, we actually started this month with Hood Slam, we started doing weed wrestlers awareness, because out here in California, we all feel that marijuana is a way better way to deal with pain and things like that as opposed to taking prescription drugs, because, surprise, all of our favorite wrestlers died of either steroids or prescription drugs for the most part.
Which Nancy and Chris both had in their system, lots of prescription drugs. I think we've kind of, haven't really pounded that point home, too. They had a cocktail of drugs in their system. And I can't really, like, I know Chris was on some sort of prescription medication, but he took like 35, maybe Xanax, maybe it was Percocet, between the time of Friday to like Sunday. And I'm curious if he was trying to kill himself with that amount of dosage. I know that, when you're kind of used to that amount of dosage, that you can do that and not die immediately, but it sounds like that's the type of thing you would try to kill yourself with.
My mom used to take like 8 to 9 sleeping pills a night and was completely fine. until they finally give her like a legit prescription one. Yeah. So you build a tolerance, you know what I mean? Especially the more you get fucked up, if they don't up that dosage, like.
And Percocet's a hell of a drug.
And as John says, Percocet's a hell of a drug. I wouldn't know, but we did.
I mean, and you look at a guy like Kurt Angle who, when he came out with his story of addiction and how many pills he was taking a day and how he was getting it. Like, I mean, I'm kind of digressing here, but you know, you see guys and women, you know, unfortunately all over that like abuse this stuff, and everybody's a case by case basis, obviously. So like, it's amazing the dosages that he would take, and you know, other people would take, whether they're a wrestler, athlete, whatever it may be, and they're still here for, you know, by the grace of God for whatever reason, and you know. It's incredible, like how sensitive, you know, case by case it is, just like from each individual person.
Zodiac, I know you were wrestling at the time. Did you and of course Kong was too, I know, and maybe Thomas was too. But did you all adjust your styles? No, you weren't. Did you guys adjust your styles whatsoever after this happened, or did you just maybe be a little more careful?
It makes you a little bit more cautious and a little bit more aware of what you're doing. You kind of double think things and stuff, and that's for sure. You know, you overanalyze a little bit. You know, you'll come up with a cool idea or whatnot, but then think, okay, what's the risk involved? Because you think back to that stuff, you're like, okay, there's a good chance I could get dumped on my head or something could happen or this, and this just happened to this whole family because of something similar. You know, or, you know, you find something to relate it to, and it makes you kind of do a double take and a double step back. So I think it made a lot of people adjust their styles and adjust their way of thinking, not just us.
What about you?
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Me?
I was going to say, what about you, Kong? I've seen you in some strong style battles with the likes of Chris Hero. Were you at all, you know, was that in the back of your mind, or was it just one of those things where it's like you go out, you do your job, and you try not to hurt the other person when you're in that situation?
Yeah, wrestling, you know, I guess back then I was, I'd say a little more careless as far as like it went with the other person. You know, and after that, as I got older, I realized, you know, we all got jobs we have to go to on Monday morning. So, you know, we have to take better care of each other, you know, and like chair shots to the head became, you know, a thing of the past. You couldn't hit me somewhere safe, then you couldn't hit me. You know, and you know, just protecting yourselves and protecting each other, you know, what can injure somebody or how somebody can be injured, or, you know, and I'm the worst. I'm the biggest softie ever. I hit somebody with a cannonball this weekend and it made a loud noise because my back smacked their chest, and immediately I'm like, oh my God, are you okay?
I'll attest to that.
Like, and that's just, it's my thing. Like, oh shit, I do not want to hurt you. I don't want to be that guy who's responsible for injuring somebody else, you know. And so I would love it if he had that same kind of regard for me, you know, because we're in this together, and the whole point is to have some longevity. Been doing this 18 years, you know, and I feel like if, you know, people weren't taking care of me or I weren't taking care of people, then there's no way I would have lasted this long.
No way.
So y'all, I know the indies are a different animal, but I was going to ask you anyway, just, you know, ever since this happened, and of course you could have said Eddie Guerrero too, but either way, ever since this happened, and again, I know the indies are a different place. Do you feel like people are maybe, I'm trying to explain this the right way, I don't know, less jacked? You know, less.
No.
You know, like steroids, are they an issue at all? And you don't have to name names, but I'm just wondering what you see out there.
Out
I
here.
Wouldn't say.
You said steroids or
steroids, human growth hormone, any of that. I mean, are guys bigger now? Are they smaller now? What do you think? Did it affect the indies on that level, or are people still going to put whatever the hell they can in their body to get where they need to go?
I think
I have an opinion on that
there's plenty of guys out there that